Is your lawyer negotiating the right things for you in your contract? Before you sign an agreement, you need to check these 3 things to make sure that you're protected and you have the best deal. Hi, I'm Max. I'm the founder of itbroker.com, and we know what's at stake when you sign an IT contract. So I want to talk a little bit about the 3 things that you have to negotiate in your contracts that your lawyers might not even be aware of. So the first thing that you want to look for and negotiate is your term length, auto renewal, and notice period. And so what do I mean by this? Usually in a service order, the service order is going to have a term on it. It's going to say 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, hopefully not 10 year, but it's going to have a term length on it. And then embedded in the MSA or the terms of service, this might even be posted on the supplier's website. You might not even have this document. There's going to be language that talks about what happens at the end of your term. Well, at the end of your term, does that contract renewal for an additional term of equal length? Or does it renew for month-to-month terms after that? Or does it renew for 12-month terms after that for 1 year? So really common in most service providers' cases is you're going to sign a 3-year contract that's going to have a 1-year auto-renewal interval. This is not great for you. You probably don't want this. There's cases where you can't avoid it, but in most cases, just saying, I don't want to renew for 12 months and I want a month-to-month agreement after the initial term, they'll say, okay. You just have to ask. Well, in the scenarios where they can't say okay, you want to understand what your notice period is. And your notice period is the time that you have to tell the service provider before your contract expires that you want to cancel your contract. So if you're in a 3-year contract with a 1-year auto renewal, let's say it's a data center and it's $50,000 a month. Well, if you have a 120-day auto renewal period and you remember like 3 months before your contract renews that you don't want to be in that data center anymore, guess what? You're stuck. You just got stuck with another year, $600,000 worth of IT contract that you weren't anticipating. So make sure you understand your auto renewal period and make sure that you negotiate your auto renewal and your notice period. These are 2 things that are really, really important. Now, here's a little added bonus for you because we've seen these in contracts, and this is this little sneaky thing that gets thrown in there. In some cases, you might have an MSA and you're executing service orders on top of that MSA, and that MSA might say, all of your service orders become coterminous with the last service order executed. And so if you go and you make a change order in your service, you want to make sure that that change order for some benign little thing, like I need to add, an email account to my, company's, email hosting service, doesn't reterm all of your other business. So that's another little gotcha. It's a little bonus tip. Okay. So the second thing that you want to be looking for, number 2 item, this is your ETF or your ETL in the contract. So ETF and ETL is the early termination fee or the early termination liability. Basically, in short, you sign a contract. If you cancel the contract early, what happens? You're paying something. Well, you don't want to be paying out 100% of the contract. A lot of contracts you're going to see are going to have ETF language in it that says, if you cancel early, you owe everything. Now, that's not a great idea. What you need to understand within these things is what the service provider's underlying cost structure is for their actual service, and based on that, what you can do in terms of their ETFs. So there's cases where you probably can't negotiate down to 0. Nobody wants to give you a contract and give you a 0 penalty for if you cancel early, right? That's not sane business because they've given you a discount for that contract. What's not good for you is having 100% ETF. And so what we do is based on the actual underlying costs, we're going to negotiate either a tiering. So, first year is 100%, second year is 80%, third year is 50%. Or it might just be, hey, look, we know that based on your cost structure on this 36 month or 3-year term, it should be a 50% ETF. So, again, how long is, what is your term? How much is your ETF? What percentage of your contract is in your ETF? You don't want to be in a situation where month 2, you realize you have to change your business. You got to cancel some contract and whoops, you got to write a really big check to get out of that thing. So check your ETF language, understand what it is, and negotiate your penalty. Now, the third thing that you want to do and that you want to check for, and this is your SLA. Now, the SLA, the service level agreement, gets embedded and attached to your master services agreement or your terms of service. So in the MSA, it's going to have a language, and the language is going to say your sole remedy for non-performance or service issues from that service provider are going to be dealt with in the SLA. Okay, great. That sounds great. And the SLA is usually a linked document on a website, and it's attached. And if you read the SLA, it's going to have all sorts of things in it, like, if it's a network service, what the milliseconds of latency are. If it's a voice service, what's the mean opinion score, the MOS score needs to be. If it's a data center, what's the humidity, in the facility should be. And these are all really good things to understand and negotiate because, you want to have the service that you're contracting for. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What you really want in your SLA, and what you really want and care about in your SLA, is you want the right to terminate the contract for chronic service outages. You will almost never see this language in the SLA by default. You have to add this language into the SLA. You have to ask for it. They're not going to give it to you. You have to ask for it. You have to tell a service provider that you want the right to cancel your contract due to chronic service outages. And this takes two forms. This is either lots of little outages over a set period of time. So, you think about it. If you're over the given month, you had a 2-hour outage every day for 2 weeks. What would that do to your business? It would be horrible to your business. You want the right to cancel. The other side of it is if you have a really prolonged or severe outage, you want the right to cancel. If your service provider goes down for 2 or 3 days, you want out, right? You want out, and you want out without paying the ETF. So you want to insert a chronic service outage exit clause into your SLA. Now, again, another bonus tip for you with the SLAs are going to give you the right to credit based on outage. So if they break the SLA that they're giving you, you have the right to request a credit. But that is the key word, request. You have to request the credit. It's not automatic. You're not going to get a credit on your bill from the service provider out of the goodness of their hearts because their system notifies it. What they're going to do is you have to open a ticket and you have to say, hey, you guys violated this SLA. We want our credit. So that way you get your credit on your next invoice. So at itbroker.com, we understand how critical these pieces are for you. These are the 3 things you absolutely should be looking for in every single one of your contracts. I'm not saying that there's not other things in the contracts that are not important, but if you just focus and make sure that you understand and negotiate these 3 things, you are going to be in such a better position with your contracts, and you're just going to be in a much better place. So please check these 3 things. Make sure your lawyer knows about it. If you need any help, you can reach out to us at itbroker.com, and we're happy to jump in.